The sound of a plate shattering across the diner floor snapped every head toward the corner booth. For a split second, the room froze between breaths, and then the unthinkable happened. A young waitress, small and exhausted from a long shift, was forced down against the table by a furious man dressed in wealth and arrogance. His hand pressed hard against the back of her head, smearing food across the wood as customers gasped but hesitated, unsure whether to step in. It was one of those moments when time seemed to hold its breath, waiting for someone brave enough to break the silence. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and standing up for those who can't defend themselves, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel before we continue, because stories like this deserve to be heard and remembered. The waitress, Emily, had started her shift before sunrise. She carried a quiet determination that most people overlooked, the kind of strength built from years of working 2 jobs and caring for a younger brother at home. The diner was her safe place, a routine that made life feel steady even when bills piled high. But that afternoon, the calm rhythm of clinking plates and soft chatter shattered when a wealthy young man walked in, demanding attention as if the world existed only for him. His expensive shoes echoed on the tiled floor, and every move carried entitlement. Customers noticed his impatience, the way he snapped his fingers instead of speaking politely, but no one expected things to escalate so quickly. At a table near the entrance, a tall man in military attire sat quietly finishing a cup of coffee. He didn't look for attention, his posture was relaxed, his eyes observant. Beside him rested a trained German shepherd, calm and alert, watching the room with steady focus. The man had seen chaos before, the kind that leaves scars invisible to strangers. He wasn't looking for trouble, only a quiet meal during a rare moment of peace. But when the young man's anger crossed a line and turned into cruelty, the atmosphere shifted. Conversation stopped mid-sentence, forks paused in midair, and the diner felt suddenly smaller, suffocating under tension. Emily's world shrank to the pressure against her shoulders and the humiliation burning in her chest. She had apologized for a mistake that wasn't even hers, but the apology had only fueled the man's rage. Some customers lowered their eyes, pretending not to see, afraid of confrontation. Others watched helplessly, unsure how to intervene without making things worse. Fear spreads quickly in crowded spaces, turning ordinary people into silent witnesses. But near the door, the German shepherd's ears perked up, sensing distress before words could describe it. The military man stood slowly, his movement controlled, his gaze steady and calm, carrying the quiet authority of someone who had faced storms far greater than a diner argument. He didn't rush forward in anger. Instead, he moved with purpose, his presence alone enough to shift the energy in the room. The wealthy young man turned, surprised to see someone approaching without hesitation. The dog remained close to its handler, disciplined and focused, not aggressive but ready. For the first time since the chaos began, the room felt anchored by something stronger than fear. The military man didn't raise his voice, yet his calmness cut through the noise like a blade. The young man's grip loosened, his confidence cracking as he realized the entire diner was watching now. No longer silent spectators. Emily pulled herself upright, trembling but determined not to collapse. Tears blurred her vision, but she forced herself to breathe slowly, grounding herself in the presence of someone who seemed unshakable. The wealthy man tried to laugh off the situation, brushing imaginary dust from his sleeve as if nothing had happened. Yet the damage lingered in the air, heavy and undeniable. The military man's quiet stance reminded everyone that strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it simply refuses to step aside when someone is being hurt. Customers began murmuring, their courage returning in small waves, and suddenly the young man was no longer the center of power but the center of scrutiny. Outside, sunlight poured through the diner windows, illuminating faces that had shifted from fear to solidarity. A manager hurried over, and someone called for help, while others offered Emily napkins and comforting smiles. The German shepherd sat calmly at its handler's side, its steady gaze reflecting the calm after a storm. The wealthy man, once so confident, realized that status and money meant little when kindness and courage filled the room. He left without the attention he craved, walking past customers who no longer looked impressed but disappointed. For Emily, the moment felt unreal. She had always believed she had to endure whatever life threw at her, that speaking up might cost her the job she needed so badly. But seeing strangers step forward changed something deep inside her. The military man didn't stay for praise, he simply nodded, ensuring she was safe before returning to his seat. That quiet gesture meant more than words ever could. It reminded her that goodness exists even in places where fear tries to take over, and that sometimes all it takes is one person to remind everyone else who they are capable of being. As the diner slowly returned to its normal rhythm, customers treated Emily differently. They spoke with warmth, left encouraging notes, and showed her that she was more than just someone carrying plates between tables. The incident didn't erase her struggles, but it gave her a new sense of worth. She realized she wasn't invisible, and that people were willing to stand beside her when it mattered most. The military man and his loyal dog left quietly, their presence lingering like a lesson carved into the walls of the diner. Strength, she understood, was not about power over others but protection for those who needed it. Days later, Emily would still remember the moment she lifted her head and saw someone step forward without hesitation. It changed how she carried herself, how she smiled at customers, and how she believed in the possibility of better days. The diner became a place of resilience rather than fear, and the story spread through the neighborhood as a reminder that kindness can turn ordinary moments into powerful turning points. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to engage with the video, because your support helps share messages that remind people they are not alone. Before we reach the ending, leave a comment telling us what courage means to you, and whether you've ever witnessed a moment where one person's bravery changed everything for someone else. In the end, Emily stood behind the counter at closing time, wiping down the same table where her worst moment had happened. Instead of pain, she felt a quiet strength growing inside her. She understood now that the world holds both cruelty and compassion, but compassion becomes louder when people choose to act. The memory of the military man and his loyal dog remained not as a symbol of fear, but as proof that even strangers can become guardians in the moments that matter most. And as the diner lights dimmed, Emily realized that sometimes the most powerful heroes don't arrive with noise or glory, they simply walk in, see what is right, and remind everyone that kindness is still stronger than anger.